What does it feel like to stand at the threshold of impossibility? To arrive at a city that exists in defiance of every natural law, carved not from the desert, but into it, as if the mountains themselves had been turned inside out? Petra. The name whispers through history like wind through narrow stone. A city that should not be. A place where human ambition met the raw face of sandstone and refused to surrender. I want to take you somewhere specific, not to the Petra of tourists and postcards, but to a moment when this city pulsed with life, when its improbability was not yet legend, but lived reality. We are moving backward, past the Roman annexation, past the quiet decline, to a time when Petra stood at the absolute zenith of its power. The 1st century before the Common Era, the reign of Aretas III, whom history would call Philhellene, the lover of Greek culture. This is Petra when it commanded the frankincense routes, when caravans from Arabia, India, and Africa converged in its stone embrace, when wealth flowed through these canyons like water that would never flow here naturally. But let me be clear about what Petra represents in biblical consciousness. This is not Jerusalem. This is not a city where prophets walked or where covenant was renewed. Petra is something else entirely. It is Edom, the descendants of Esau, the eternal other, the brother nation that refused brotherhood. When the Israelites pleaded for passage through Edomite territory during the Exodus, they were denied. When Jerusalem fell to Babylon, Edom watched, and some texts suggest they aided in the plunder. The prophet Obadiah pronounced judgment. For the violence done to your brother Jacob, shame shall cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. Petra carries this weight. It is a city of genius and beauty, built by a people whom biblical tradition remembers as antagonists. If you're finding yourself drawn into this impossible place, into a history that challenges everything we think we know about ancient cities, consider subscribing. We're building something different here. Narratives that don't just inform, but transport. Join us. The approach to Petra is theater, geography as revelation. You do not see the city until the city permits you to see it. The Seek, that narrow canyon corridor, twists for over a kilometer through stone walls that rise 80 meters above your head. In places, the passage narrows to barely 3 meters wide. The sky becomes a ribbon. The temperature drops. Sound behaves strangely here, echoing, layering, distorting. Ancient travelers would have moved through this space with mounting tension, vulnerability heightening with every turn. Then, through a final gap, carved rose-red stone explodes into view. The treasury, Al-Kazne. 40 meters high, its Hellenistic columns and pediments announcing that whoever built this possessed both wealth and cultural ambition beyond measure. But the treasury is not the city, it is the announcement. Beyond it, the valley opens, and here is where Petra reveals its true strangeness. Everywhere you turn, architecture emerges from living rock, not built upon the earth, but excavated from within it. Tombs, temples, homes, all carved in reverse. The Nabataeans, masters of this technique, understood something profound about permanence. What is built can be destroyed. What is carved from stone already is the stone. Daily life in 1st century Petra operated on vertical plains. The wealthy inhabited elaborate rock-cut facades in the valley floor and lower cliffs. The working population lived higher, in simpler excavations, and some constructed dwellings. Markets filled the colonnaded street, though much of what we now see dates to later Roman rebuilding. In the Nabataean period, the commercial heart was less formally organized, but no less intense. Merchants from Alexandria haggled with traders from Mesopotamia. The air was thick with languages, Nabataean Aramaic, Greek, Arabic dialects, Hebrew. Goods that had traveled months arrived here to be brokered, taxed, stored, and redirected. Frankincense from Yemen, myrrh from Somalia, spices from India, Dead Sea bitumen, prized for Egyptian mummification. Petra was not a producer of goods. It was a controller of passages, a guarantor of safe transit through territories it dominated. Protection, knowledge of routes, water management in impossible terrain. These were what Petra sold. Water. Let me pause here because this is where Petra moves from impressive to miraculous. Annual rainfall, barely 10 centimeters. Yet Petra sustained thousands. How? The Nabataeans engineered invisibility. They read the landscape with genius precision, identifying every seasonal watercourse, every potential catchment. They carved channels into cliff faces, built ceramic pipelines, created cisterns throughout the city. During the brief winter rains, the system captured and stored every possible drop. This was not innovation born of comfort, but of absolute necessity. Without this mastery, Petra dies in a season. We're halfway through something remarkable. If this narrative is resonating with you, if you're feeling the weight of this carved city, hit subscribe. These deep dives into biblical history and ancient worlds, they take time to create. Your support makes them possible. Religion in Petra operated in layers, much like the stone itself. The Nabataeans worshipped Dushara, the supreme male deity, often represented not by statue, but by geometric carved blocks, acetals, sacred non-representational forms that emphasize divine presence beyond human image. Al-Uzza, the powerful goddess, partner to Dushara, commanded equal reverence. High places dotted the mountains surrounding the city. Jabal al-Madba, the mountain of sacrifice, still preserves its ritual platform carved from summit stone. Pilgrims climbed hundreds of steps to reach spaces where blood of offerings ran in carved channels, where prayer rose into vast desert silence. But by Aretas III's time, Hellenization was not conquest, but conversation. The treasury's facade speaks Greek architectural language fluently, yet its interior purpose remained thoroughly Nabataean. This was cultural confidence, not submission. Petra borrowed forms, but bent them to local meaning. For the common inhabitant, life meant labor, caravan support, water system maintenance, craft production, pottery, metalwork, textile. It meant navigating steep paths, living with resource scarcity despite surrounding wealth, understanding that your city's prosperity depended on stability hundreds of kilometers away in every direction. It meant being always aware of being watched from above, by those facades of power carved into the cliffs, and by something else, the ever-present sense that this city existed against nature's will, that every day of its continuation was a kind of victory. And then time moved. Rome came not with armies first, but with pressure. By 106 CE, Petra was absorbed into the Roman province of Arabia Petraea. Trade routes shifted. New ports diminished caravan importance. Earthquakes struck, 363-551, shattering the impossible. The city did not vanish instantly, but faded, population dwindling, stone facades watching over fewer and fewer inhabitants until only the facades remained, empty amphitheaters of stone waiting for discovery. Petra stands now as it stood then, impossible, alien, testament to human refusal to accept limitation. A biblical antagonist made real in stone that defies forgetting. What strikes you most about this carved city? The engineering genius, the theological complexity, the strange biblical shadow it casts. I genuinely value your perspective in the comments, and if this journey through Petra's heights and depths meant something to you, if it brought ancient stone to life even briefly, consider subscribing. Together, we're recovering what time tried to bury. These stories, they're part of our inheritance, whether we claim Petra as kin or remember it as the other. Either way, it speaks.